Good evening, our viewers. It's a beautiful Saturday evening. I'm Karaga Baldwins, and we're coming to you live from the Kampala Senior International Conference Center. And we are just we're trying to reprogram from our usual schedule to address the business community about the issue of business registration and the compliance obligations that are expected of business entities in the enhancement of our economic environment in this nation. Before we go into a studio discussion, please have this preface and then we'll be right back.
According to Lean Methods Group, a research institute, it observes that the business world faces the following challenges in every continent all over the world. They are uncertainty, globalization threats, cash flow constraints, excessive government policy and regulation, technological volatility, market complexities, plus supply chains and strategic thinking problems. Every year, the world awaits a report on the ease of doing business from the World Bank, a ranking index of countries on how best they make registering, starting and doing a business. This ranking is an important indicator for prospective investors to use in deciding where to invest. Recently, export.gov, a United States web portal platform that supports its citizens and business companies in investment exportation decision-making, made a statement about Uganda's business environment. It states several challenges its companies face in Uganda, which include high levels of bureaucratic corruption, land-related fraud and corruption, infrastructure connectivity deficiencies, especially in the rural areas. The statement continues to assert that there is a lack of specialized skills in accordance with UNDP's 2018 Human Development Index, which ranked Uganda 162nd out of 189 countries. Then the statement cites inefficient government services, considering the World Bank's 2018 Doing Business report, which ranked Uganda 127 out of 190 countries, 7 positions lower than the previous year. Uganda ranked below the average for sub-Saharan Africa in multiple evaluation categories. One of the key institutions in Uganda that deals with business environment governance, enablement and enhancement is the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. It is mandated under the Uganda Registration Services Bureau Act, Cap 210, to register all business entities in Uganda which are required by law to be registered. Nonetheless, the Bureau also holds the responsibility of post-registration monitoring and interface with these businesses, expected to ensure that there is an effective and business-friendly environment right from registration, gestation and maturation. With this responsibility, the Uganda Registration Services Bureau URSB, in conjunction with NTV, have found it pertinent to have a comprehensive discussion about the onus that falls on business companies in the country to deliberately be compliant in its post-registration phase with the Bureau as a way of ensuring a better business environment and sustainability. You're welcome.
And indeed, you're welcome. I'm Karaga Baldwins, and if you're out there, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, or you intend to start up a business, or you are an prospective person in the governance of this country's economic agenda, please join us to discuss this matter because it's very, very important. And in studio, representing Uganda Registration Services Bureau, I have 2 beautiful ladies. One, Juliet Scovia, Apolot, the Senior Registration Officer at URSB. Juliet, you're welcome.
Thank you, Baldwin.
Yes, and right next to me, I have Charlotte Mudoola, Senior Registration Officer, also URSB.
Thank you, Baldwin.
Yeah, you look resplendent. Your uniform speaks a whole lot of it. Yes.
You.
So let me start with you, Juliet. Definitely your mandate is purely, majorly, to do registration, and you register public, private companies, foreign companies, legal documents, e.g. constitutions of companies or businesses, agreements, deeds, powers of attorney, security documents.
Yes.
Okay? So we are trying to address the issue of compliance, especially after the registration time.
Yes.
So somebody would be curious to know, why do you have to extend this relationship even after I have done the registration, that URSB is still seeking out for me to entangle me in its own business governance issues?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Baldwin. Again, as far as Uganda Registration Services Bureau is concerned, yes, I want to believe that not everyone again knows what we do as Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Ours is a mandate, as already told to us, it's about registering businesses, registering marriages, registering intellectual property. Right now we have something called SIMPLE, security in movable property. We also have liquidation issues as the URSB. So beyond these processes of registrations, I come into you, for instance, your office, or you come to URSB, you expect to have a certificate. But beyond a certificate, what are the other requirements that follow? Is it that other issuing of the certificate, that is entirely it? Or do I just go and, you know, bank it, or just keep it until I don't know when you come back? But then post-registration compliance basically relates to, you know, doing every other thing to keep this company alive or keep the business living. Otherwise, you just like a baby is given birth to, it doesn't end at just, you know, the first day, but every baby step along the way of you have to walk, of you have to run. That is what we do in trying to do post-registration compliance. And this is what Uganda Registration Services Bureau is very passionate about. And so right now we have the campaign around filing annual returns. You could ask, what are annual returns? I know many of the people out there are wondering, annual returns, is it the URA returns? And then we're telling them no.
And it somehow sounds synonymous and quite repellent, really.
Yes, so annual return for us is kind of different as we understand it. It's basically, what is your company looking like at the end of the year, its trading year? Have you done any changes in this company? Have you increased your share capital? Have you, you know, brought in new directors? This is basically what is reflected
so
in the annual return.
The profile of the company and its construction, and Charlotte, it definitely, yes, of course you're going to add on to that, because this sounds to be a big business issue. It's not in any way an obligation to small companies, because and in record, looking at the 2017-2018 records, because that's all that I could trace. For the 2018-2019 report, I did not find this information, but you can see that new companies registered are about 50,000. You have legal documents, powers of attorney, and all these added stuff, 38,000. You have several output particular statistics that are quite commendable. And so is there a cost, but also is this purely just exclusive for big businesses, or small businesses also expected to be part of this whole obligation of compliance?
Thank you, Baldwin. Small businesses also have their post-registrations. Basically, if you want to make change, you know, small businesses want to change someone, bring in a partner. There are steps and registrations.
And in Uganda's context, a small business is the one which is less than 50 million? 50 million or? Yeah, 50 million.
The threshold of,
threshold of 50 million Uganda shillings, yes.
So basically, they also have documents like changing particulars. That's also something they have to do after registration. Although it's a simpler step and cheaper to actually register such transactions, which only costs you only 10,000 shillings. So it's cheaper for the smaller businesses. But then also the bigger companies have their own forms of post-registrations. I think most people know resolutions, you know, bank resolutions, opening up an account, chain box numbers, that's also post-registration.
So the bank resolutions, usually just to help out on the person who is viewing, perhaps who hasn't gotten into that business complexity, is that if you need to have maybe your bank check signed off, there are certain particular individuals that are mandated by the board of directors or governors.
Or even the directors.
Yes, so that resolution is the one you're talking about, that you need to go and certify with your URSB.
Yes, especially for companies, if you have a contract, you know, most of them want to pay in the company name and account. So those bank resolutions are very important, plus signatories to avoid fraud, theft, and all those kind of. So those are very important post-registrations to help a company to keep running and going. We have things like annual returns, what my colleague mentioned. We have what they call notice of increase of share capital. That's also a form of post-registration for companies.
We're coming to that in the specificities, worry not.
Yes, so basically, for companies, bigger companies have more responsibilities and more post-registrations that they have to do compared to the smaller businesses.
Okay, good that this study is a bit clear that the small businesses are not going to be entangled in this sort of mechanics of compliance.
Oh, yes.
And so you look at the costing, which you have elaborated, of course, on your website and in your documents. You say continuing filing on companies, the registration of documents is 20,000, company resolutions 20,000, company forms 20,000, stamp duty on transfer of shares is 1.5% of amount being transferred, registration of transfer of shares 20,000 plus. And you look at the economic environment that we're in. People are crying about money, and the URSB agency comes and is asking for more money, almost taxation requirements in just the filing of these issues. And I can see really you're making a whole lot of money from this stuff. If I can see the non-tax revenue collections of 2018-2019, you had 56.3 billion. Wow. And someone feels like government through URSB is still trying to extort us. We are crying of KCCA, we're crying of URA. So how does this enable the business environment? And you've heard about the record of the economic performance of a business ease of doing business here in Uganda.
Yes, yes, I know that for most of us who are into business, because personally I want to associate myself with the business community. Yes, we're looking at probably the fees that are attached to some of these costs of 20. You realize that our rate is 20 for most of the companies, standard rate. I'm thinking that is even more affordable, especially where we want to still go compliant, but also having the mandate aspect of us being able to be the collecting agencies for government, because there are others, but we also have a role. So in trying to give out our services, it has to be an exchange of something that comes through.
Yeah, but you see, you call it non-tax revenue, and it's disguised as non-tax. But to me, it's actually a revenue charge on my company, and it feels like almost a supplementary parallel role played by URA. Because if I'm paying taxes to URA, to KCCA, why is it for the registration of the companies and turning over these particular resolutions and all these compliance requirements? Why shouldn't it be really free?
Well, it still goes to a bit of, yes, as a mandate, we need to be able to account to government at the end of every financial year. And of course, as you've seen of late, I mean, these figures are very crucial and they come out so strong. So either you're not doing your role as a government agency, or you're not, because that actually determines whether you've even performed. So the more for us, the better. So again, I'm saying that yes, it is a bit manageable, and these fees are really manageable. People can actually afford to do any other thing, go for a show of more than 20,000.
Of course.
But then when it comes to
it's my money, but it's my
so why don't we embrace this and
yes.
then, you know, improve ourselves economically, because you're not going to find paper, because we also use paper. We use many of these things. So who is going to factor that into our processes?
No, it's because you're a government agency. We give you support through URA and KCCA. But anyway, I guess the businesses are not complaining, because I'm complaining probably on their behalf, but I hope they're actually not complaining in your offices. So, Charlotte,
yes, please.
So let's talk about now the real issues, the specificities of these compliance requirements about annual returns to URSB. You have there's a form of annual return of a company having a share capital in the third schedule part 2, which requires address, the situational registers of members and debenture holders, summary of share capital, and debentures, of course, and annual return fees of 50,000.
Yes.
There you go, still money. So what is the essence? Just give us a justification for these requirements, because as I'm saying it in a sentimental manner, I think there's somebody out there who feels really this government is here to squeeze us and suck us out for whatever we have.
First, I want to emphasize the difference between the annual returns in URSB and URA, because I've come across clients, they ask, but I've already paid my URA tax.
Exactly.
So basically, it's not a form of tax showing us the profits you've made. It's basically a document. You're trying to tell us the status
Profile
of that
status,
company.
yes.
In that specific year. If there were any changes made in that year, then the annual return gives us a summary. Basically, it's like an update on the company.
Let me get it right. So if there's no change, no payment.
No, if there is no change, the information stays the same, but you pay. So you
Aye.
have to annually update, informing
pay.
us, yes, on the status. Basically, basically you have to update your record and the office on the status of the company in that specific year or period. And the essence of this basically is to help to show that the company is not dormant. It's a form of showing URSB or the Registrar General's office that, you know what, my company is not dormant, we're actually working. And
okay, so how does it help the person, the company proprietors themselves? Because yes, it's helping you to have this information. I don't know really the essence in terms of value addition to the economic improvements and development, but not to the individual. If I gave you this information, because I find really I don't give a damn about it, just for the lighter bit of if I have a change of this particular as my address, but I'm there, why would you have to insist on an annual?
But then, okay, because also where I was going towards the dormancy, because it also prevents us from deregistering your company. Your company stays into existence. We know this company actually still operating, and the proprietors or the shareholders or directors still want the company to keep running. So that's one of the advantages of filing annual returns. You don't deregister your company. Then the other...
So meaning that the consequence, one of the consequences, if you do not return, you... Wow. Okay.
Stand a chance to go.
Then also, basically, it keeps us up to date with your company in case for certain institutions when you're applying for contracts, for bids, these annual returns are a requirement. Some of them ask, is your company up to date with annual returns? Why would you want to miss out on such opportunities or contracts? Because you're not compliant.
Yeah, it's so presumptuous that when you have that information,
yes,
you're going to get
I'm telling you.
Okay. Okay, that's yes. So, Juliet, good explanation.
I think I need to
yes, you're going to add on it through the because of time constraints. So the company resolutions, just I mentioned, it's 20,000 the cost. Okay. I'm keeping on highlighting so that the person knows. In as much as it's not that bad. So according to the Companies Act 2012, which you're very familiar with Section 150, it asked for the registration and copies of certain resolutions and agreements. A printed copy of every resolution or agreement to which this section applies shall, within 30 days after the passing or making of the resolution or agreement, be delivered to the registrar of the companies. So this is information to the public. So why is... Now, we talked about annual returns. Why, for sure, company resolutions?
Yes.
Why should... What is the essence of this in itself? It sounds a petty requirement and unnecessary. At least if you asked it for like 5 years period, I think that it would make sense. Don't you think so?
Thank you for that. Now, for the resolutions, basically, we want to understand that they are formal decisions made by, it's a board of directors or shareholders, meetings or something. So such a formal decisions cannot just come by way of, you have them in your maybe boardroom and then you keep them there. You need to keep notifying. And so for you to move with that document and come to us, we need to stamp on it. And so we're saying we're not stamping it for free. But it helps update your records, but also give, help you make decision as a company, but also to third parties like bankers who would want to give, for instance, loans to a company. They want to see that you've agreed as a company to have a bank account opened. Who are the signatories? Who will be manning this? Who will be manning that? So because that is very important, they will definitely have to come and file it. Otherwise, where in most cases where you just have that resolution and then you have it maybe in your drawer, it doesn't help you much because until it's out there, it's a public document, then it's going to really, really work to your benefit. Yes.
Okay, so what are the other particulars in resolutions that you consider? Is the resolution majorly about bank account signatory changes?
Now resolutions can take any form. It doesn't really stick to one thing. Now a company could have so many decisions it wants to make, or maybe communications that it wants to make. For instance, you are appointing directors. You do it by way of a resolution. Anything for a company, I want to emphasize that a company is an official person.
Yes.
And so it acts through the directors. Now, each time the directors come together and pass whatever resolution, it has to be in that formally written
so the
out.
company, the
you know?
person, which is the company,
Yes,
is
officially.
reporting to the head. I don't know how you would describe yourself in terms of family structure, to the
yes.
dad or whoever it is, to the
Okay,
grandfather. That's okay, you guys. Now we have changed. Our family structure is this, and this is
yes.
now the child will be the one
Yeah, true.
paying
Yes.
the women. And okay.
So whatever it is that a company, whether you want to say today we end, like we do not want the secretary in our company, you will have to make a resolution, and then you formally file this with a register of companies. And so anything that you would ever think of as a company, aside of just thinking in your mind, you have to reduce it into that document we call a resolution, and then you file it with a
Okay, and
URSB.
each resolution you're making,
Exactly.
like every decision you've made
Oh, yes.
has to be a separate payable item. Like you've made a resolution about the bank account, 20,000. You've made a resolution about who to be the company secretary, 20,000.
Oh yes. However, there's
Is that-
also, I know that for some, probably the way the drafting really matters. If you want to lump these, there's some of these
One resolution.
matters you can actually lump together and say you have 4 resolutions you've passed. Instead of saying you have for a bank specifically, then you have for probably knocking out a director, you could have it as a one document, in which
Yeah.
case it would help you save on that which you're saying is too
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
No,
that
of course,
every
I'm
time-
considering the people
Yeah.
who are just getting into the bracket
yes.
of middle of large-scale businesses,
yes.
because the people who are aspiring to
Yes.
get into that level of big business.
Yes.
So you don't want to have the person get the 20,000 as a deterrent
Okay.
for them to really
yeah.
explore there and perhaps to relate with you.
Yes.
So is the response and the feedback from the people that you're getting to have this compliance done, is it friendly or is resistant, as in reflection to my sentiment?
On my part, I think it's friendly. People are getting used to it and they are getting to learn and understand actually the advantages of why, especially with the partnerships we've done with the other institutions. So it's a bit easier, and they're saying, okay, yeah, I need this document for this transaction with this institution or for this business transaction. So right now, it's actually, we're getting a friendly response from the clients. So I believe we are heading in the right direction. Yes.
Okay, so now, according to the same Companies Act, there's now the registration of minutes. It says the minutes of proceedings of meetings of companies and directors, because I'm just trying to explore, just elaborate on what these particular compliance requirements are. And this is what you're going to do. We're going to go into a break, but just putting into your mind that every company shall cause minutes of all proceedings of general meetings and of all proceedings at meetings of its directors to be entered into books kept for that purpose. And a minute referred to in subsection 1 report purporting to be signed by the chairperson or the meeting at which the proceedings were held, or by the chairperson of the next following general meeting, or literally shall be evidence of the proceedings. And usually these meetings are also supposed to be returned as procedural records of that you're supposed to pay for.
Yeah,
Okay,
basically.
so think about it, and then let me go for a break, and we
Okay,
progress
alright.
on this particular discussion. Thanks, our viewers. Let me just have a short break. We will be right back to have an exhaustive ending of this particular discussion. Thanks, our viewers, for keeping with us. I'm Karaga Baldwins, and we're discussing business registration and post-business registration compliance requirements. Okay, that is not a repetition, but basically that's how this particular discussion goes, and it's very quintessential for you who is either doing business or aspiring to do so, as to prepare yourself on the very requirements in this economic environment that you need to meet so that you can be able to maneuver through successfully. And in the studio, very brilliant ladies representing URSB talking about this matter, especially the obligations and the compliance requirements from them. So, yes, Charlotte, just explain about meetings. Even the records that are kept for meeting proceedings, are they supposed to be turned over? Because if you really tell me that that is a requirement, I think
basically,
many might not agree that it's essential. Yes.
You know, basically when you have meetings as a company or a business, this is the most crucial part of managing a company. This is where the big decisions are made. This is where people decide, let's change this, let's do this as a company, let's increase our share capital, let's bring in this person. You understand? That's where the big major decisions are made in these meetings. So once these decisions are made, they have to be transformed into resolutions. You write a resolution like we earlier talked about, saying in this meeting held on this day, this and this was resolved, and then you break it down. Thus, registering it as a resolution at 20,000.
I think something. How do you authenticate that these are true outcomes of meetings from the real people, the owners of these companies?
Usually, okay, some people go the extra mile and attach the minutes of that meeting, the people who attended signatures, but then also the directors. That's why we keep a record every time of a company. We need a record of a company. We check and see who are the directors signing these resolutions. Are these the directors we have on record? You check and see, and if everything is okay, you're like, okay, yeah, this is an authentic document, plus the meetings attached. It's up to also, of course, the company and the members of the company to attach the minutes.
Because this is coming from the reflection of one of the major news that we have had recently, where a bank issued about $1 billion. This is, of course, quite parallel in terms of analogy, but it's quite similar. They transferred $1 billion shillings, and it indicated that they had all the records of the communication from the directors. So all of a sudden, a resolution comes, and they have either dissolved or they have kicked out the original founder or the chairperson. How do you authenticate that this is actually true proceedings from these people? Just to give the security to people out there that in case this is done, they cannot be foul play against them.
Because it's usually all the members have to sign. The important thing is signing that signature. It's on the same signature on record. I think that's the best.
You assume it can't be fabricated?
Well, honestly, I believe
because you're the registration officer, so I guess
no. Honestly, you can always tell. Sometimes you can tell that it has been fabricated or not. Or if you query, there's what we call querying the signature or the document. So it's a discretion of the registrar to see if there's something wrong with the document. It's not a must. You have to sign it. There's so many steps and procedures you have to follow to actually confirm the authenticity of the document. If it's not okay and you don't agree, you tell them, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't register.
Okay, so the people can be sure you do your proper due diligence to ensure that
we
this is
actually
sorted
do,
out.
yes.
Okay, so thanks, Charlotte. Juliet.
Yes, please.
So give us evidence of what you've done. What are the records, the compliance, the responses? How many? Like what is the response? Hopefully you have figures on so far, like perhaps this year, how this particular correspondence and compliance has been done.
Yeah, interestingly, compliance is an area that we have actually, or in the recent past, tried to really, stand strong on, especially because we've been more into the registration. But in terms of compliance, it's something that URSB hadn't come out strongly, but of late, it is something we are really campaigning on. And maybe in terms of records, I may not give you the exact records, but what we know that on ground we're trying to advocate, do sensitizations, because previously, yes, someone would come to your office and say, I want to file a resolution. And then before you file a resolution, we're trying to inquire into the company. Is it compliant? Have you been filing annual returns? And for some, it was a shock. This is really honest, that it was a shock. Portraying a picture of they do not even know what annual returns are. So then as URSB, we went back and we thought, how do we then have this information come to the public? Because they need to comply, but again, they do not have the information. So right now our emphasis is on the sensitizing the people about compliancy, and of course, in time to come, there are fines also coming along the way, because when we give out more information on compliancy, then yes, people are really coming up. You find people filing so much in terms of
okay, so in statistical maybe aggregation, for instance, you have 100 companies.
Okay.
Because you're the ones who deal with this registration.
Yes.
How many return, like in terms of percentage, out of 100%, in your own estimation? Of course, this is a bit arbitrary, but because you're the one dealing with business, just for me to understand whether really people are appreciating this. Is it more than 50%? Is it less than 50% of people who are really relating with compliance?
Yeah. I think I would give it about 60.
Okay.
Yeah, 60. Around 60. Because yes, there are people who knew that, but then the bigger majority of the business community actually didn't know. So each time you talk about annual return, they are first to say, but I've been filing my annual returns with URA. And then you have to labor to explain, actually, our annual returns are only 50,000 for a company limited by shares, and then 30,000 for a company limited by guarantee. And so over time, people are responding, and because see, the banks are also our partners in this. They're trying to help us. Each time a client walks into the bank, the managers there are like, where is your annual return for this year? And so you find that it begins to, to become a norm to the business community. And so we see that a lot of them are coming up.
So you're using banks to...
No, it's
partnership
for business growth.
We haven't run out from banks and go to mobile money. Hopefully it will not. Yes, but I fully understand. You need partnership in this. As I've been asking for the advantage of the person who is doing this, if they feel it helps them to get a business, a competitive advantage in the market, then it's okay. Okay, so Charlotte, you have, see, according to the Companies Act 2012, Section 72, saying that there's a notice to the Registrar of Consolidation of Share Capital, conversion of shares into stock. Now, these are big companies, I guess. And if a company having a share capital has consolidated and divided its share capital into shares of a large amount than its existing shares, and it goes on and on, meaning you're supposed to just communicate the changes that are done in that share capital holding. So what is the essence of requiring the company to do this? Is there what is the financial cost? I don't want to to give now, because people might assume I'm trying to soil your mandate.
Basically, yes, there's a cost, but this is mainly talking about changing the share capital of a company.
That's per year.
Yeah. No, it depends on, let me say, for example, there's a transaction the company has to do, and the contract or whatever they want to do, they say, no, your share capital has to increase from this to that for them to actually benefit.
Okay, paint a scenario.
For example, if you want to go into microfinance, you have to increase, your share capital has to be higher than, for some microfinance institutions, it has to be like 500 million. For others, it has to go as far as 1 billion. So if you want to get into that kind of business, and at registration you use the lower share capital, you can sit as a company, you agree and say, you know what, we want to get into this business, we have to increase our share capital. So that's something you have to notify the registrar, because when you notify us, we have to alter the registrar and change and actually increase and say, you know what, this company, their share capital increase from this to 500 million. And then also it also gives information to other institutions or whoever wants to transact with that company. Is this information true? Yes, they change, and this gives you more opportunity. Basically, because a company's information is open to the public. Anyone who's dealing with that company has a right to have access to that information. So we have to keep editing and updating the file. So you have to keep, then also transferring shares. Sometimes you can find someone, for example, I have my shares and you want to buy them from me. That's the information also you have to notify us, because I can change from being the shareholder and now it's you who's the shareholder in the company. Basically, when you have shares in a company, you are an owner or you have rights in that company. So we have to keep getting the information and updating on any change or transaction regarding shares.
You know, it's very tricky, because you see, why people complain about URA, I wish we have a time where you are an official and you will come. Because some of this information actually is availed at the point of doing tax evaluation for companies. And it feels like it's a repetitive cost requirement, or is in terms of time and in terms of money, isn't there a way you can just follow up with URA and say, can you give us that information, and we just use that for the changes of why should the person be, the company itself should provide that information to URA, because they do that. Definitely there's no way you can do shares transactions because they have tax implication or cost obligations to the people. You get it, exactly. So that is where the contradiction comes from. You're asking, they're reporting on those shares to you, but also to URA, and each of them, of you guys are asking for.
Although now you are to confirm that information from you, they have to come back to URSB at some point to actually confirm that information. So I believe URSB is more like the foundation of a business to have access to all sorts of transactions or opportunities. So at the end of the day, they come back to URSB.
Oh, okay. So you're the authenticators of whatever it is that is saying. Okay, interesting. All right, good response. Juliet, so you have still the, I hope this is the document, registration of legal documents, powers of attorney, and of the Constitution, 50,000 affidavits, and statutory declarations. Probably you'll explain. You must have some legal prowess in the area of law. And then you have stamp duty on transfer of shares, which I already stated. So what does a business gain from undertaking? Really, this what I understand of the power of attorney, maybe you can explain about the affidavit. It's the one which transfers it gives agency to a lawyer, somebody else, I guess, who the person who is supposed to sign and take contracts on behalf of the company, the legal representative of the company, not so? So why should you harass me and give you 50,000 on just having made a transfer of the powers of attorney?
No, I think, yes, you put it right that, a power of attorney is basically a person, a representative of the company that, deals in terms of contracting and all that on behalf of the company. And so the question
and affidavits
is,
maybe.
Now, affidavits are basically, they come in so many forms. Affidavits can be used to affirm. If you want to declare, for instance, if you know about yourself, probably it's me, I'm talking about myself, and there are facts known to me as a person that I need to affirm and formally write out. I'd use an affidavit and state that blah, 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 I'm so and so from this place.
For which, in case there is error or misrepresentation, you can be sued or criminally.
Oh, yes, because then you affirm them to be true to your knowledge, to the best of your knowledge and belief that exactly what you've stated is true. And so that document is either it can take affidavit or statutory declaration. All together, they can work either way.
And you know there are costs, legal process costs for producing an affidavit and power. But
yes, they are.
Because I'm telling you,
They are.
Because
the person out there looks at you, government agencies, and says you're not really sympathetic at all. Producing this thing, you know that definitely the court judge or somehow the court is involved. They have to have a lawyer to make sure that this is drafted up properly. I pay that, then I have to pay your rest. Why don't you just be sympathetic with me? I bring you the power of attorney. I'm your customer.
So how will you draft it? I mean, you're thinking of drafting it and having it put together. So who will do that part? If you can actually do the part yourself.
Yes. If I'm not a lawyer.
Sometimes actually, what the other thing? Let me chip in. The other thing we do also as URSB, the people who can't do it, so you just advise and tell the client, do this, do that, and they go type it out themselves. They bring back, is this okay? We're like, oh no, this is, we help them also.
So edit. I can eliminate these dealers.
Then at the end of the day, you're also learning, and then we're also helping you. And then you're drafting something really proper and like that's required as a.
So I can come straight to URSB office. Kindly help me, guide me on how to draft a power of attorney so that I avoid spending my 500,000 shillings to a lawyer. Even more than that sometimes, by the way.
The lawyers out there may not be happy, but really that happens.
You're eliminating jobs.
We're not eliminating, but we're trying to empower people so that, just like we've tried to come up with a one-pager for a memorandum and articles of association. You don't have to have a whole huge booklet of
Yes, I
yes.
remember.
So
Yeah.
those
I
are
remember
things.
those
It's an ease
books.
of doing business.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you can
Transactions.
actually work with a document yourself, and then you have a company.
One
registered.
page.
Oh yes.
We no longer need
A
the
booklet.
this
You
this
don't- you don't need
preamble and
No,
then
no, no,
put
no.
in the like we are swearing this business means because that's what I've seen for any kind of company.
Yes, it's really huge books, but now you can actually work with one pager for a company.
Mhm.
Yes.
So actually, people, if they get more relatable to you interfaceably,
Yes.
they can get
Yeah.
far
Guidance, yes.
more advantaged help
Yes.
Yeah, true.
to avoid more leakage of their money.
I think
And
that's
said-
where
and
we're
they just
really,
they just spend 50,000.
I think that's why we're really doing something on the ease of doing business. Those are some of the,
Yeah, I
the
think that
things
makes
that have
sense.
come up, and to just help a common man to be able to handle.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
most people think that drafting the articles of association memorandum, you have
must
to
go to
have a lawyer,
No.
even
That is
two.
true.
No,
Because
I know,
the books come out in such a very
very-
threatening
yeah,
manner, and
yeah,
you know at
that's
times you don't want even to read. You tell the lawyer, just as long as they give me the certificate, that's all I need.
That's all I
You
need.
don't.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so as we're wrapping it up, for me, I've refused. I'm not doing this stuff as long as I'm still selling my stuff. I'm doing business. Why is there any consequence I'm going to face? As long as I'm paying my taxes. If I'm not complying to give you that information you're asking.
Basically, like annual returns, I had said earlier on, if you don't comply, your company will be deregistered. And if it's deregistered, how are you going to continue business? And no one wants to work with a company.
Okay,
that's
that
not
takes after how
registered.
long? Why would if I fail to make annual returns in a year, then you deregister my company?
Of course, not a year, but of course you can't keep doing it for the years to come,
Like how many years?
continuously.
Then you just try to
You
be
first,
a good
if you're
advocate
if
for.
you're dormant, you first have to do a resolution of dormants to notify. Something
I'm not dormant.
yes,
I
because
just-
when you're dormant, that's
I'm
when
You're
fed up.
stubbornly refusing.
I'm
You're
fed up
stubbornly-
of moving up and down. I hear I'm coming to pay 20,000, 50,000 to URSB, and yet also URA is coming.
okay, for
on my
annual
day.
returns, it
So,
says
I've refused.
5 years. For the annual returns, 5 years. That's where they'll be like no, and then you'll be cut out.
But what effort do you take yourself to understand what is happening to this? Because you see,
That's
the-
what I was coming to.
Okay,
Yeah.
because government should be seen
Yes,
humane. You're serving people.
true.
Or if you just stay on your high horse and say if these people do not comply, and which is done by so many government institutions, you don't do this, we kill you off. Of course, I'm just using a pejorative. But how do you help or
Yeah.
find out what extra mile do you take to understand why actually these people not complying? And perhaps if somebody has complied before and they stop,
What we've done, basically, what they've first put up announcements first for people to comply. Then they give an opportunity to those who can't. For example, you haven't filed for, I want to pick a big number, let me say 20 years. And you can file for a certain period of years, then you want to file later. Usually you you explain reasons why, and then, they give you time and listen to your reasons, and then you agree with the institution, of course, with the director, and then you say, okay, yeah, you pay these years, and then you can pay the remaining years. That we can actually register certain documents. So, of course, it's now up to you, the business owner. Also, don't just sit and wait.
I might be hustling.
No.
You see,
let me-
Charlotte, I've given
I
you
think-
listen. This is how ridiculous it is by most institutions. You ask for my email address, you ask for my WhatsApp number, my phone number, office number. You ask for all that information, and most of the times, the institutions do not actually take effort to use that particular address information to just understand the real situation on the ground of why these people are not either collaborating. And you might find that it's a very genuine reason, because you need these businesses to stay afloat, rather than just taking decisions in office and say, you know what, this person is not turning up, forget. So do you take extra measures besides saying, we've done enough? Because not all people are listening to radio, are watching TV or reading newspapers. Because if you have my company, I've given it to you, I've registered, do you take extra information after 3 years and say, we need to know why this person is not? Do you do that? And I hope you're not going just to to pleasantly lie.
Yeah. But I think I could take a shot on that. Okay, we know that we do these registrations, but also right now we've tried to actually at the point of registration inform the client that at this point in time, after 12 months from today, you should be expected to file your annual returns. For those that, you know, could come out and say, no, we had no idea. But even those that come and present their case, because you know, you can have all, I mean, a number of clients telling you all these kind of stories. They are moving stories, yes? You would say, I went out of Uganda, as in Sudan, for some, you know. And I've met such clients, but then I think it's like.
And then you go on the ground and you say you're finding something different?
Or not even, because maybe you may not even be able to go on ground. All that you have is that person before you, and they're really trying to present a case to you and say, how about if I can pay up to this much? I know this is my obligation, but if I can, this is what I have. Because honestly, they come to you at that point in time, and maybe they don't have that kind of money, but then the gentleman needs a resolution. It is to wire money onto a bank account. Oh, that's where you grab
there's no way it's going to proceed on.
No, so it's really a talking time really to say that. But yes, you know that the bankers, actually, you know, the bankers are the ones who even push them more, because they'll tell them, I need the latest annual return. So there's no way, because the gentleman must see the latest annual return for them to do whatever transactions. So somehow they are cornered. Yes, and then somehow they find them complying. But even those who don't have those, you know, strings attached on them, they basically come and say, look here, I've got to understand my obligations. Let me have the forms. Let me go look in a space of 1 week. Let me go and put this together. And actually they come.
Okay, so let's finally let's finally wrap this up. You know, Charlotte, give me 2 advantages, emphatic ones, to the person out there that is in this dilemma of feeding government is really a fox. It's just trying to suck out whatever I have, and tell them critically and essentially the advantages of this. Then, Juliet, you wrap up, tell people where to be found and how they can be helped in this particular compliance obligation.
First, the major advantage of compliance, it makes it easy for you to do transactions and your businesses. You don't waste a lot of time, like I have to file this, I have to file this. You have an urgent transaction, you have to register a document. Once you're compliant and up to date, you just take the document and it's stamp signed, and you see your business is moving continuously. There are no hiccups or anything stopping you from transacting. And then also, like earlier on said, you know, applying for contracts, you know, this is a major contract for you. Some institutions ask for these documents. Are you compliant with this document? Is this document there? If you don't have them, you miss out on a contract. So, okay, those are the 2 major ones we've asked, but I know there are more, but those are the 2 critical ones.
Of course, we are wrapping up. So thanks. And I think that's a compelling reason why should people come to you. And of course, collectively, this is a national cause. Yes, Juliet, so how do people get in touch with you?
Yes, I just also want to just add in something small. There's that scenario of forged companies appearing. I mean, the owners use agents to do these companies. So the time when they come to file a resolution, they are shocked. And the actual company doesn't exist, even in our records. So again, that is for me compliance. If you don't do it, you will be shocked. So you don't want to be shocked. However, you can find us at our head office, that is Uganda Registration Services Bureau, and we have branch offices in Nigeria.
Where is it?
That is at Georgian House.
Where?
On George Street.
Okay.
That is George Street, above CPS, that Central Police Station. Yes, so you should find our head office there. Then we are at Trade Plaza, that is at Lumumba Avenue. We are at Sekaziga House, around Nachivubo Ham Tower areas. We're at Post Office, that is Kampala Road, main post office. We have a branch there. And then we're in the 4 corners of Uganda. We're in Mbarara Regional Office. We're in Mbale Regional Office. Arua, and then Gulu Regional Office.
Okay, that note.
So between the hours of 8 to 5, our offices are open.
For you don't hustle beyond 5. All right. Actually, in this particular show, it's ending at about 6. So you've been brilliant, really splendid. I believe somebody who is watching has greatly learned and is being inspired to make sure that they do the right thing. Hope to see you again.
Okay, thank you,
Charlotte and Juliet, indeed, of URSB registration. Thanks, our viewers, for keeping with us. This is NTV, and if you're out there, you're a company, or you're an NGO, or your government, a ministry, department, or an agency, please come talk to us here at NTV, talk to our general manager or our sales team or myself, and let's have a very comprehensive discussion for us to help better our nation and develop this land. Please keep logged on to NTV. I'm Karga Bodwins. Have a great evening. Okay.